Hi, welcome to my presentation. My name is Adrian Torino. I'm going to be presenting to my mom, Magalis, and my grandmother, Rosa. Now, today we're going to be talking about macronutrients. The reason I chose this topic is because macronutrients has a daily impact in our lives. Since macronutrients is basically foods, we eat foods every day. So we eat macronutrients every day. Now, to be more specific, macronutrients are also called energy nutrients. These are very important in the repairing or building of tissues within our body. We refer to the following nutrients as energy nutrients and are needed in our body in large amounts. As the word says, macro equals large. Now, these are carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. What is the main energy source in our body?
Carbohydrate.
Very good. So, carbohydrate is the main energy source in our body. Some people say reducing carbohydrates will help them reduce weight. And that is true to some extent because they have become very popular. The Atkins diet and the keto diet, that are diets really low in carbohydrates. But in fact, cutting carbs, we take away from the sport performance of the athlete or the person just intaking carbohydrates, and we also compromise the overall health of the individual. Now, carbohydrates, as we stated earlier, is the main energy source in our body. It makes up the largest nutrient intake in our body of 45 to 65% of our daily intake. It's made out of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So an easy way to remember this, as the word says, carbohydrates, carbohydrates. So carbon, oxygen, hydrogen. And 1 gram of carbohydrates equals 4 calories. And as we can see in this picture on the very bottom right here, you can see all the different kinds of carbohydrates. This includes vegetables, fruits, and grains. So, where can we find carbohydrates?
In vegetable, fruits, like a banana, apple.
So yeah, very good. Carbohydrates are usually just daily foods that we take. Some people don't have a good understanding of it, so some people just intake these foods without even knowing what they're intaking in their body. So yeah, we can find carbohydrates in fruits, apple, bananas, berries, vegetables such as tomatoes, cucumbers, spinach, and in grains such as rice, quinoas. Now, there's 2 classifications of carbohydrates. We have the simple carbohydrates. This consists of monosaccharides. As the word says, mono equals 1. So this meaning that monosaccharides consist of 1 sugar molecule. We can find these monosaccharides in fruits and vegetables. And the second category is disaccharides. As the word says, D equals 2, meaning that it has 2 sugar molecules. Examples of these foods, we can find them in milk, honey, maple syrup, and beer. Although some people say alcoholic beverages are empty calories, but in fact, alcoholic beverage contains really high calorie intake if they have a lot of this type of carbohydrates, such as disaccharides. And the next classification is complex carbohydrates. These are polysaccharides. Now, an easy way to remember polysaccharides is by the word poly. Usually means more than 3, so lots of it. Polysaccharide consists of long chains of glucose molecules. Now, there's 3 types of polysaccharides. We have the starch, that is stored in plants. We have the glycogen, this is stored in animals, and we have the fiber. The fiber is stored in plants and grains. Now, an example of starch we can find in rice, oats, and beans. An example of glycogen we can find it in beef, chicken, and an example of fibers we can find it in plants and grains, in wheat, rice, citrus fruits, oats, and legumes as well. Fibers is very useful for people with diabetes and people who has bowel syndrome disease, such as diarrhea. Now, why do we need carbohydrates? The reason we need carbohydrates is because it provides energy, it fuels daily activity, and it also fuels exercise, spares protein, the other nutrient that we're going to be talking about later on, and fiber help us stay healthy. as I mentioned before, fiber is very useful for people who has any sort of disease that has to be with the large intestine. And the average intake of fiber in the adult male is of 38 grams of fiber, and the adult female needs an intake of 34 grams of fiber. Now, what are fats?
Oils,
Yeah,
any kind of oil.
Yeah, so fats are basically oils. To be more specific, fats or lipids are essential energy supplying nutrients in our body. Now, as you say oils, in this picture right here we can see that we have the oils. Now we have the avocado, we have the olives and the nuts. So fats are basically another energy source in our body. It's made out of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, same as carbohydrates. The daily intake is of 25 to 35%, and 1 gram of fat equals 9 calories, meaning that for every gram of fats that we take in our body, we're taking almost the triple of calories as we would take in a gram of carbohydrates. So where can we find fats?
All the animals, fish, chicken, beef, oils.
Yeah, so as we saw in that picture in the last slide, we can find fats in animals. For example, salmon, it contains very high amounts of fatty acids. These are essential fatty acids that we need in our body on a daily basis. In nuts, almonds, cashews, hazelnuts are very, very important in our diet, since nuts are very high in fats. And oils, such as olive oil, canola oil, margarine oil. These are oils that we constantly use on a daily basis to cook our food or to simply just dress our salads to give it some flavor. Now, there's 4 classifications of fats. They have the triglycerides, as the word says 3 or 3, meaning that there's 3 fatty acids attached to a 3-carbon glycerol backbone. An example of this, as we stated earlier, in salmon is very rich in fatty acids. Now, fatty acids are long chains of carbon atoms bonded together as well as hydrogen atoms. So as we said earlier, fats are made out of hydrogen, carbon and oxygen. And phospholipids regulates transport of substance in and out of the cells. This is when we stated that fats are so important in supplying nutrients in and out of the cell. And esters, these are fats found in animals, plants, and are made within our body. So an example of esters we can find in vegetables, nuts, seeds, grains, yolks, and whole milk. And it's fat that is also made within our body, because whenever we don't need an amount of energy, we store it as fat in our body for later use. And plant esters are very useful for people with diabetes as well, since it helps them reduce cholesterol. Now, why do we need fats? So basically the reason we need fats is because it provides energy, especially when we're at rest. Fats act as a major fuel source. Fuel physical activity, and body fat is stored as energy for later use within our body. Contains essential fatty acids such as omega-3 and omega-6 that are essential fatty acids needed in our body on a daily basis. Provides protection to our body so that fat tissue pads our body against collisions or falling down. An example of this could be whenever in a rugby game there's a collision between 2 guys, that fat will help them protect their organ systems from being injured. Help maintain cell function and contributes to the flavor and texture of foods. Now, can somebody tell me what nutrients in this picture right here?
Proteínas.
So very good. In this picture we can find all sorts of protein, such as salmon, beef, and eggs. Now, what are proteins? Well, proteins is a large complex molecules composed of amino acids. It's a primary source of nitrogen in our diet, since protein is made by carbon, oxygen, hydroxygen, and nitrogen as well. There's 20 different amino acids that are used to make proteins in your body. 1 gram of protein equals 4 calories. This is the same as carbohydrates. and the adequate daily intake is of 10 to 35% in our daily diet. Now, where can we find proteins?
In or eggs, eggs, milk, cheese, any kind of meat.
So yeah, very good. We saw that in the first picture.
Yeah.
So we can find proteins in eggs, dairy products such as milk, yogurt or cheese. We can find it in meats, chicken, beef, fish, and we can also find it in legumes such as black beans, are very, very high in fiber as well as is high in protein. Now, there's two classifications of proteins in our body. We have the essential amino acids. These are amino acids or proteins that cannot be made within our body. So we have to take them from foods, such as the one that we talked about earlier on, salmon, fish, beef, legumes, dairy products, and non-essential amino acids. These amino acids can be made within our body, meaning that we have them in our body and are constantly being broken down and remade. Now, why do we need proteins? Well, the reason we need protein is because protein is required for cell growth, repair, and maintenance. Meaning that every time we go to the gym and we push that weight, we're breaking down the proteins within our body. These are later on, whenever we ingest any food source of protein, we are remaking these proteins, growing the muscle and repairing the tissue. It's an important component of all cells in our body, since protein helps us for hair growth as well. Whenever we intake black beans on a daily basis, it's said that it grows, is good for the growth of hair or the hair cells. And protein synthesis is increased during growth or the making of new cells. All proteins in the body are constantly being broken down and being remade. This process is done by protein turnover, and this recycling is one of the reasons that we do not need larger intake of protein in our body, only 10 to 35%. Now, to summarize, macronutrients are essential to promote growth, development, and regulation of metabolism. This is done mostly by protein. As we can see in this picture right here, we need a decent amount of protein, 10 to 35% of daily intake. And macronutrients are essential for the provision of energy as well. This is mainly done by fats and carbohydrates. As we can see in the picture, carbohydrates, as we say earlier on, it takes the larger intake of our daily diet, 45 to 65%, and it fuels our daily activity, and mostly high intensity activity, such as going for a workout, and fuels also going for a 100-meter run, going for a marathon. And fat is another source of energy. It is not as important as carbohydrate is for daily field activity, but fat, in fact, it provides energy mostly for when we're at rest, when we're sitting down, when we're going for a walk. It's very useful. An easy way to remember this is that, as you guys can see this hand over here, by using the three largest fingers of your hand. So we have the carbohydrates, the fats, and the proteins. And that's basically all that we're going to talk today about macronutrients. I hope you guys enjoyed my presentation. I hope you guys know what macronutrients are for now and have a better understanding about it and how it impacts our body on a daily basis. Thank you.
49. Un minuto que te faltó, pero bueno, tú dices.